Hi, y'all. I'm smiling today, even though I'm going to talk about PTSD and depression. I'm smiling because I just came out of a really severe depression, which I think is directly related to my PTSD. And so I'm going to share a little bit about these conditions of mine. I have found that in hearing other people's stories and doing research has helped me not to eradicate these things from my life, which unfortunately I think might not be an actual possibility, but I have been able to sometimes turn the volume down and other times know very quickly when I need to get help. So I'm going to back up a little bit and talk about PTSD, or the variation of PTSD I have, which is, there's Willie, is c-PTSD, which stands for complex post-traumatic stress disorder. This c-PTSD is not in the, whatever that psych manual is, the DSM or whatever it's called, but it's very real. I assure you of that. And what c-PTSD is, it's PTSD sometimes or often occurs after like a one-time trauma, say a car wreck or being the victim of a crime or something like that. c-PTSD is sort of the mental equivalent of a repetitive stress injury, like carpal tunnel or something. Without going too far into this, you can read all about it in my books. I had a really difficult childhood, very abusive, and was given certain messages over and over again about myself that were not true. Just, that I was a piece of shit and unworthy and on and on and on. And this took a really big toll on me emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. And only now in my 50s do I feel like I'm really making some serious headway in untangling it. I've been trying to untangle it for a long time. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. And I think even the doctors and therapists agree that it's very complicated. To give an example, I have some pretty messed up brain chemistry. And that might be a result of the fact that I spent my childhood like flooded with cortisol and adrenaline, or maybe it's bad genetics. But we don't really need to worry about the super specifics of what happens in my mind chemically, just that what I need to worry about is that it happens, and when it happens, it's really terrible. I've also suffered from depression since at least adolescence. I do think that there's a connection between the two, and again, it doesn't really matter. The point is that when I have a month like I had in November of 2019, it is terrifying. And I'll just give you a little feel for that. So in November of 2019, I had like a triple trigger event. I got some really bad news via a phone call. I was in a situation where my feelings felt confused and maybe a little hurt. And then also November historically has been a really bad month for me. I have a friend who calls November the drum roll because it just gets the holidays rolling, and holidays are really difficult for me. I also have some trauma anniversaries in November. So anyway, point is the cumulative effect of these triggers was that I got knocked into a really serious depression. And when that happens, I have voices in my head. This too is a little tricky to describe. It's not like I have a real clear voice that I hear in my ears saying to me, you need to go over and wash the dishes, or you need to go bash your head against a brick wall. But it's more like the feeling of a voice. And that voice emulates the voice of my father, who told me a lot of things about myself that weren't true. And ultimately what happens is I have a really hard time differentiating reality from falsehoods. So I'll wake up in the morning and I'll feel filled with shame, overrun with anxiety, and then I'll think it would be way easier if I were dead. And then I'll think, nope, that's not true, that's not true. But it gets very exhausting to have to go through days thinking, I want to die, oh no wait, I don't want to die. And it can get really severe to the point that I think, well, if I did die, what would be a good way to do that? What would be the least messy way to do that? Because I don't want to, leave a mess for people to clean up. And I'm like, well, I could shoot myself on the back of my ranch, and then maybe the vultures could pick me clean before someone found me, or I could take a bunch of pills, or you get the idea. This is called suicidal ideation. I've never had an active plan to kill myself, but it doesn't matter. I just get really, really, really exhausted from this stuff. So the good news is, here comes William. William! The good news is I've had a meditation practice for 20 years, and I really believe that's helped me a lot. Now, I can't really go back and compare the old me to the current me and know that it's helped a lot, but there are scientific studies that show that meditation can really change your neuropathways. So I have a solid meditation practice. I meditate every morning for 20 minutes, and then often I meditate in the afternoons for another 20 minutes. And I do think that's helped a lot. And there was a point in my life where my depression was at bay for maybe 2 years or more, and I really came to believe or proclaim that meditation had cured me. Now, I need to back up on that because it didn't cure me. It's come back several times. And so it got so bad in November that I decided to do something that I felt a lot of resistance to. I went to my physician's assistant. I go to a really cool East-West health clinic, and I talked to her, and I told her that several friends of mine had approached me and that they had talked to me about their experience with medication. And I did not want to go on medication. Partly because I grew up in a blue-collar situation where there was a lot of stigma around mental health issues. And even though I'm a huge advocate for mental health, I still felt resistant for myself. Like, I got this, I can do this. And also, I actually tried medication in the 90s. I tried 4 different kinds of medication, and each one left me really violently ill. So it's November 2019. I'm reflecting back on that period of time. And then I remember, oh wait, I used to drink back then. Now, I quit drinking maybe 20 years ago, but you're definitely not supposed to drink when you're on antidepressants. And so I'd reached this point of genuine desperation. I went to talk to this physician's assistant who knows my history, and she went through a list of possible options for me, and I decided that I would give it a try. So what I want to really, one of my bigger points here today is to say that I now combine meditation with medication. And I'm really happy to say that I've been having these wonderful results. I was afraid of so many things. I was afraid in a really vain way that I was going to gain weight. And that is, it does sound like vanity, but another part of my PTSD is that I have an eating disorder. So I get really weird about food and weight. But that was truly a minor concern. My much bigger concern was that my mind would feel sort of blanketed by a dental x-ray apron, and that I wouldn't be able to think clearly, and that I would feel foggy or that I would feel flat. That has not been my experience. It did take me a couple weeks to kind of adjust, and I felt a little bit woozy. But I can now wake up in the morning and the voices are quiet. And that is, I don't really use the word miracle a lot. I'm not a religious person, but it's like a miracle. It's like I can get up every day and be alive and feel alive. And I'm super, super grateful for that. So I wanted to tell this little story about the day I went to get my medication. My physician's assistant had, she called in the prescription to this little local pharmacy down the street, and I went down there, and I was just feeling so awful. And I walked in, and there was this really kooky woman there. And like I like to say, it takes one to know one. So I'm not saying it in a judgmental way. I mean, she was just really kooky. Her lipstick was like, there was just like, it was so much and so bright. And she had on this really wacky textile skirt. And she had like this 9 million year old dog with her. And she was talking to the pharmacist. And And I said to the woman at the cash register, how long is it going to take you to fill this? And she said, oh, about 10 minutes. I said, okay, I'll wait outside. So I went outside. I came back in, William, and the kooky woman was still there. And she was talking now to the pharmacist about something like there's chemicals in the water or something that sounded kind of conspiracy theory-ish. And then she turns around and she sees me. And so, all right, I was wearing the dress that I have on right now. In fact, that's why I'm wearing this dress. I also had on my rake-up boots, which are these really cool vintage old gringo boots that I wear when I need to, when I need a little confidence boost. They're real shit kickers. So I have purposefully dressed very nicely this day, trying to, I don't know, fake it till I make it, or just trying to, I felt so bad that day. I was willing to do pretty much anything to feel a little bit less bad. So I dressed very nicely. So I'm in the pharmacy and this woman is looking at me and she just starts going on and on and on. She's like, my God, look at you. You are a hippie who has aged so well. You are rocking it. Look at that figure. Are you a swimmer? I can't believe it. You are so beautiful. Like, I did not know how to respond to this because at that point, I was just thinking like, I want to be dead. I want to be dead. But she wasn't done yet. So then she starts to go on and on about how Christy Brinkley, she's had a lot of work. She's aging differently, but not you. You are so natural. And then she turns to the young pharmacist and she says very loudly to him, do you agree with me? So now the pharmacist looks at me and he looks at her and it's extremely awkward. And he says, well, I'm not going to disagree with you. And so we kind of all stood there awkwardly. And then she finally left with her 9 million year old dog. And I walked up to the pharmacist and he was holding my prescription. And I said, well, that's kind of funny because do you see what I'm here to pick up today? And he looked and he's like, yeah. And I said, well, if she could see the inside of my head, maybe she'd have a different opinion of me. But anyway, I really appreciated running into her. It was just this, Austin is full of wacky experiences like that waiting to happen. And I also decided that maybe I would try to remember the next time the negative voices come in. Hopefully they won't ever come in. But that maybe I can kind of imagine that woman lives inside my head and that she's there to kind of chase those voices away and just tell me that I'm doing okay. It's not that I need external validation about my dress or my boots, but she really, her enthusiasm was really infectious, and I'm really grateful to her. Hey y'all, thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you'll like and subscribe to my channel. And if you like this episode, I hope that you'll copy this link, share it with a friend, paint it on a wall, put it on your social media. That'd be great. Thanks a million. Take it easy.